Hey guys, it's Hot Dogs here, and today we're going to be doing another video game review, but this time we're going to be switching platforms, and we're going to be heading on over to you guessed it, the Wii U. Know what you might be thinking? You might be thinking the Wii U sucks, it's bad, didn't have any good games, but I'm here to tell you that it might have had some good games, and one of those is Shovel Knight, and you can often find it on many of the lists of the best indie games of all time. But is it really that good? Shovel Knight is a platformer with pixel art reminiscent of the Nintendo and Super Nintendo days. It was developed and published by Yacht Club Games in June 2014 for the 3DS, Wii U, and Windows. I'm not too sure about a Windows release, but from what I'm seeing, if you wanted to play this game whenever it came out, you needed to have either a 3DS or a Wii U. So I'm just going to say it was a Nintendo exclusive. If you have any insight on that, you can let me know in the comments below. But it was later ported to the PlayStation and Xbox and the Nintendo Switch in the upcoming years. The way I'm going to be doing this review is I'm going to be breaking it up into 4 general sections, one for each of the campaigns that was released. Whenever Shovel Knight initially came out, it just had one, Shovel of Hope, and has since released 3 others, which if you have the Wii U version, you can still get for free just by connecting it to the internet. So loading into the Shovel of Hope campaign, you get like a intro cutscene, if you can call it that. It's just like a bunch of still images with the story written underneath them. So in essence, there's 2 knights, Shield and Shovel Knight, of course, and they were adventuring until they got to the Tower of Fate, where it all goes wrong. Shovel Knight awakens, but Shield Knight is nowhere to be seen. The land has been taken over by the Enchantress, which is like the antagonist of the game, and Shovel Knight has to save the day. So it's kind of like a basic story, you know, kind of like a Bowser captured Peach, Mario needs to save him. This game isn't for the story, it's more focused on like the gameplay, but the story is just there to, you know, help make sense of things while you're going to do things. But I think it'd be unfair to grade this game based on the story, so we're not going to really talk too much about that. Right after that intro cutscene, you're put right into the middle of a level. The game doesn't really hold your hand by telling you where to go or what buttons to press. Fortunately, you can go into options and look at the controls and see what buttons do what, of course. And as a bonus, if you have a physical copy of the game, it comes with a full color manual where it goes over the controls more in depth and gives you some tips and tricks. Shovel Knight really only has 2 attacks in his moveset. The first one is the basic one. It's just a swipe, so just like what it sounds like, you stand next to an enemy or a breakable block, and you can swipe it with your shovel to deal damage or break the block. You can also use it to find secrets, and you can also use it to dig up dirt piles that are scattered across the level. Sometimes they're hidden, sometimes they're not, but once you do dig them up, you are often rewarded with a lot of gems and gold, which you use to purchase upgrades and things like that. His only other move besides the basic ones like running, walking, and jumping is called the shovel drop. I like to call it the pogo bounce because of the way it works. So whenever you're falling, you can also jump and hold down, but if you land on an enemy or a projectile or an applicable block like a dirt block, you can bounce off of it. You can also chain these together and use your momentum to hit multiple enemies or blocks and make it across bottomless pits and chasms. Once you master, the pogo bounce is actually really satisfying to use, especially during the more challenging stages where you have to use the pogo bounce in conjunction with your swipe attacks in order to break blocks that are in your way while you're bouncing across a bottomless pit. So what happens whenever you do fall into a bottomless pit after a miscalculated shovel bounce, or you land on top of a row of insta-kill spikes, or an enemy just simply depletes you of all your health? It actually kind of works similar to some other Souls games in the way that whenever you die, a certain percentage of your gold that you have is left at the spot of your death in 3 different bags that you have to collect upon your next life in order to get it back. And if you fail to do so, that first set of gold is gone forever, and a new set of money bags appears that you must collect. And the cycle repeats until you stop dying. I think this is the perfect incentive to keep players from rushing through the game too fast. Because if you die and you try to rush and get your gold back as fast as you can, chances are you're going to make a mistake and you're going to die again and you're going to lose all that gold in the first place. And if you're saving up for like one of the more expensive trinkets or armor, then you can lose a couple thousand gold in just one death. So this stops you from rushing through and really forces you to calculate what you're going to do next, how you're going to handle this area. Sometimes you have to do something special in order to get your gold back. It may have landed in a spot that you normally wouldn't be able to go. Sometimes, if you're really unlucky, it'll land in a spot that you won't be able to get back, and it's just unfortunate, but you won't be getting your gold back. But that doesn't really happen that often. While you don't necessarily need the gold in order to complete the game, it sure does make it a hell of a lot easier. You can use it to buy numerous different magical trinkets that all have their own unique uses, such as the fireball, which gives you a projectile attack. You can launch fireballs across your screen. There's an orb that you can use that bounces off of objects, so you can damage multiple enemies or maybe hit one that's not necessarily in your line of sight. Plus multiple other ones that all have their own unique purposes. And a benefit to playing this on the Wii U is you can use the touchscreen on the Wii U pad to switch between the trinkets on the go. Otherwise, I'm not sure exactly how you would do it on like an Xbox controller, but I'm pretty sure you have to like use the bumpers to filter through them all. But the Wii U gamepad makes it nice because I can just tap whichever one I want right then and there. You can also buy different sets of armor for Shovel Knight that have their own special abilities and also change his appearance. There's one that causes you to only lose half the money whenever you die, and there's another one that stops you from being knocked back whenever an enemy damages you. These armors and relics change up the gameplay quite a bit and keep it from becoming too stale. I found myself using almost all of the relics I had found. There was only maybe one or two that were I didn't think were too useful, but throughout the courses I would find myself constantly switching between them. Like a lot of other platformers, the amount of fun that you have depends on the level design. I think Shovel Knight really excels here, keeping each stage feeling fresh by mixing up the flow. Each stage has its own direction on how to advance. Sometimes you go up, sometimes you go down, sometimes you even need to go down then left. Every level has its own secrets that are sometimes hidden in pretty obvious spots, and other times they're tucked away on a platform or a ledge that is seemingly too high or far away. Often when you get to those spots where it looks like it's in a spot that you can't make it requires you to solve like a little puzzle. Sometimes you have to use an enemy in order to make it high enough by doing like a pogo bounce off it. And what would good level design be without its fair share of boss fights? Most of the main levels are themed and have their own knight that you have to fight at the end. Every one of the 8 knights has their own attacks and moves that you must learn in order to dodge them and defeat them. Some of these battles I found were a little easier than the others. Maybe that's because I found like some cheese way of doing it, but some of the battles were very difficult and I found myself dying plenty of times. But one thing I will say is that I didn't notice like any jank when I was playing. Like I didn't die to some unfair crap. It was always something that I could have avoided. Aside from the few battles that I found were too easy, I thought that most of the fights were the perfect level of challenging. This combined with the unique songs and style of each knight sure makes any of the stages hard to forget. Quite apparent, you can tell that the art and music are inspired by games from the NES era, but with their own takes on them to make them feel more modern. The maps, courses, and characters are all beautifully crafted with a fine attention to detail, to even the backgrounds and just the way Shovel Knight slashes his shovel. Each stage and boss fight has its own tracks that can sound anywhere from bright and uplifting to dark and ominous. Whether you're in Plague Knight's Explodatorium or Spectre Knight's Lich Yard, you're sure to hear a resplendent and catchy tune that you'll want to put on your playlist. My favorite, if anyone was wondering, is a cool reception from the Stranded Ship stage. I could listen to this for hours. throughout my 25-hour journey, including DLC, I could not put this game down for a second. The atmosphere, music, platforming, and everything else rival that of AAA games, making it easy to forget that it was just a small indie studio that put together this timeless classic. That's the conclusion of my review for the base game of Shovel Knight. If you want to hear my thoughts on each of the 3 DLC, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned. And if you have any suggestions on games you want me to review next, or just see me play in general, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, Hot Dogs out.